Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we're talking about another employee from Disney getting fired over saying something offensive on Twitter. But before we get to that, let's first backtrack a little bit and see where this whole story started. Most recently and famously, Roseanne Barr was fired from her TV show for referencing Planet of the Apes in a tweet, making fun of a former staffer for President Obama. Now I still disagree with the inherent racism there, but regardless, Roseanne was quickly fired when she accidentally connected a black person to a movie that had apes in it. And to be fair, most of us didn't even know the woman she was talking about was black. Valerie Jarrett sure doesn't look African to me, and Roseanne has repeatedly claimed she thought she was white.
I thought the bitch was white! Damn it!
This is her comeback? Seriously? Roseanne Barr launches an ear-piercing tirade as she attempts to explain the racist tweet that got her fired.
As you can see, Roseanne is back in public again recently, likely trying to reinsert herself into the media. She's still been kicking around on Twitter, of course, too. And frankly, I hope she can make a comeback from this witch-hunting lynch mob that came after her. Even Inside Edition here says her tweets were racist. Like it's so matter-of-fact now, which admittedly it kind of is. I disagree with it, but the rest of the world has branded Rosie as a racist, and there's not much else we can do about it from here. And it was pretty obvious Roseanne was getting extra scrutiny too, and less than a fair shake here, probably because she produced a conservative-friendly TV show. And of course, she supported Donald J. Trump, our president, and plenty of liberals and other celebrities went along with Roseanne getting fired. Some even supported it, including a person who now has become this outrage machine's next victim. You see, before director James Gunn was getting fired himself just last week, well, ironically enough, he was reveling in Roseanne's firing a couple months ago. Here's James Gunn's tweet from May 29th. It reads, "I wish some of these so-called defenders of liberty would start to understand what freedom of speech is and isn't. Roseanne is allowed to say whatever she wants. It doesn't mean ABC Network needs to continue funding her show if her words are considered abhorrent. And, well, I think you're really going to regret saying that now, Mr. Gunn." James supporting Roseanne's firing here means he really can't complain when they fired him for some of the same reasons. Except what James Gunn said on Twitter was actually really sick and pretty goddamn messed up, while Roseanne was canned for accidentally saying something supposedly racist. But James Gunn, he said some of the dirtiest shit I've ever seen on Twitter or the internet. When people started to comb through his 10-year Twitter history last week, dozens of gross, inappropriate comments and supposed jokes were found, many of which dealing with sex with minors, sex with babies and children. Can you believe that? I don't know what it is with Hollywood and pedophilia, but James Gunn's got a really sick sense of humor, man. Damn, I'm all for freedom of speech and everything, and you really can joke about anything if you want to, but if we see her making pedo joke after pedo joke for so long, people are naturally going to start to wonder, what the hell is up with this guy? And I got a pretty sick sense of humor sometimes too, but my head never really goes to sex with babies. Not when I'm goofing around and cracking wise. In my opinion, it's only sick people with messed up heads who do this shit, especially like Gunn, who did it repeatedly and publicly over and over on Twitter. I'm going to show you guys a couple of his milder tweets, but I got to be careful even reading these creepy things here. YouTube could easily strike or ban me if I went through all of James Gunn's degeneracy. I got links to more of it below if you want a more comprehensive list of these messed up tweets, but here's just a couple examples so you know what I'm talking about. "I like it when little boys touch me in my silly place. Shh, James Gunn." James Gunn also says, "The Hardy Boys and the mystery of what it feels like when Uncle Bernie fists me." And here's another James Gunn classic. "The Expendables was so manly, I fucked the shit out of the little pussy boy next to me. The boys are back in town." Wow, pretty gross and messed up. And with all that said, would you guys really want a man like this working on a family movie like Guardians of the Galaxy? I know if my kid was an actor on a James Gunn project right now, I would be pretty goddamn paranoid. So it's no surprise Disney quickly fired Gunn when this whole story broke last week. I mean, can you really blame them? James Gunn even said himself that people have freedom of speech, but that doesn't mean a company has to fund your projects or that you have to work with them. So it really looks like Gunn dug his own grave on this one, and now he has to lie in it too. And now that Disney has fired Gunn, there's been a balancing of the force, if you will. The left came after Roseanne with their reaching claims of racism, which eventually got her fired. And now, in response, some people on the right have spearheaded this justified firing of James Gunn. I might even say neither should have been fired in a perfect world, but if they're going to take Rosie over nothing, then I will happily live with Gunn being fired over lots of somethings. Over some very, very gross, offensive, pedo-like somethings that he's tweeted repeatedly. And I love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies as much as the next guy, but really? James should have known better here. Maybe you could argue he was younger and less prominent in Hollywood back then. Some of those tweets are 5 to 10 years old, well before Gunn joined Disney's Marvel Cinematic Universe by directing the first Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014. But Gunn surely could have deleted those tweets since then. He's even apologized for them before, but why not just delete them all before this week? I mean, they were out there this whole time. I wouldn't want to leave that hanging out there, especially after what happened to Roseanne in May. This was pretty damn ballsy, or more likely stupid, of James Gunn to leave those tweets up for so long. And as the story carries on, more and more Hollywood liberals are becoming victims of their own PC culture monster. Comedian Michael Ian Black, for example, is coming under fire himself for sending out his own terrible tweets that got weird and creepy pedo vibes, just like how James Gunn did. Michael Ian Black tweeted a few things like this, quote, "Went to my kid's elementary school Halloween parade. Disappointingly few slutty girl costumes. Michael Ian Black." Next he wrote, "My day so far. Mini wheats, riding, quick baby fuck, more riding, picked up kids from school. Michael Ian Black." And another great quote, "I don't like watching iCarly with my daughter because there's nobody on that show I want to molest." Jesus Christ, Michael, you're another creator I like too. But what the hell is up with the Hollywood type saying all this child molestation baby bullshit? Sounds so weird and messed up to me. Not to be too prude or anything, but this doesn't even sound funny at all. It's twisted, sick individuals that say things like this. No doubt about that. And they've gotten so insulated and brazen in Hollywood about it, these losers are putting their degenerate thoughts on Twitter for the whole world to see. It's like they're rubbing their deviancy in our faces now, but thankfully, some of the public is starting to catch on. It's no coincidence that both James Gunn and Michael Ian Black are raging anti-Trump liberals either. This is the enemy we are faced with, guys. Disgusting, low-life entertainers who think jokes about having sex with babies and little boys is funny. Rape is not funny though, and neither is pedophilia. In case anyone was wondering, the only thing funny about this story is it was the liberal lefties who started witch hunting people before. They started attacking our own conservative side. The left is the one that started this PC culture war by slandering Roseanne and branding her as a racist with the most out there reaching logic ever. And you know, with that low bar they set, they would be going after any and all conservatives if they could too. If someone like James Woods said something even slightly racist or sexist, the left-wing media would try and do the same thing they did to Rosie. But they can't, because James and most other conservatives, the prominent ones, our backgrounds and Twitter histories are virtually squeaky clean. In reality, it's the leftists and the liberals and the anti-Trumpers. They're the ones who have the most messed up shit in their history, in their background. And now, finally, they're gonna have to pay for it. But just in case you weren't convinced this is a disturbing trend in Hollywood, here's a few more horrific examples. Here's a tweet from the Jewish Hollywood liberal Sarah Silverman saying, "Hey, is it considered molestation if the child makes the first move? I'm gonna need a quick answer on this." Real classy, Sarah Bear. Next, Patton Oswalt from San Francisco, and known to be starkly anti-Trump. Well, I have to say, I'm glad Patton's not on our side after reading this vile tweet from him. It says, "Dear Subway, Jared Fogle blaming his pedophilia on you is gross. I love your sandwiches and they almost never make me want to fuck kids." Almost never, you say. Wow, Pat. Just wow. Starting to think the theory about you killing your first wife off so you can marry your new one, that might have some merit now, all things considered. Frankly, nothing would surprise me coming from these sickos at this point. Finally, we got Rick and Morty creator and self-proclaimed male feminist Dan Harmon, who has decided to delete his whole Twitter account and history in light of this new wave of people calling out lefty weirdos. Probably a smart idea, but it didn't stop the internet from finding Harmon's video where he jokingly rapes babies in a comedy sketch. Sounds pretty crass and tasteless to me, but it is in his First Amendment rights too. But I really don't know if Cartoon Network should keep employing him after this. Do you really want to know your children's cartoons are created by a guy like Dan Harmon? Or would you be comfortable with your Marvel family movies being directed by a gross pedo joke maker like James Gunn? Or what about weirdos like Michael Ian Black, who also writes books for children, while at the same time joking about raping them on Twitter? True story. I really couldn't make this shit up if I tried. And this trend of degeneracy and rumors of misconduct and pedophilia is nothing new in Hollywood. While some might think this is a new thing, many others have recognized this open secret for a while. Directors like Roman Polanski and Bryan Singer have always had rumors of bad shit going on. Some of it's even confirmed. And of course, there's producers like Harvey Weinstein, who have all been dark and embarrassing parts of the Los Angeles film and television scene for decades now. Hell, it's been 100 years of this even. Ever since the movie industry became a thing, the casting couch and child grooming came along with it. Judy Garland from The Wizard of Oz says she was often approached for sex on set as young as the age of 16. Shirley Temple was only 12 when she saw a Hollywood producer expose himself to her. Marilyn Monroe often warned other starlets about the Hollywood wolves, men who would ask for sexual favors in exchange for roles and retaliate if women didn't oblige. Sounds like the same thing Weinstein was caught doing recently. But even worse than these past crimes and the current current trend of modern Hollywood liberals inappropriately joking about them. Even worse than all of that is the people who defend these degenerates. The left-wingers will defend their own with any mental gymnastics they can come up with. They have no shame and they don't care about the double standards and the hypocrisies they exhibit. Saying Roseanne was fired for far less worse comments, and liberals just don't care. They don't care about being fair or about being respectable, decent human beings either. Take a look at this Yahoo article, for example, which frames the story as Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn fired after alt-right campaign. Well, that's a funny way to say the guy got fired from a kid's movie because he tweeted about pedophilia repeatedly, and I love how they act like this is the alt-right's attack, as if conservatives are going after these creeps because they're vocally anti-Trump, when in reality, it's the other way around. Most people who come out against Trump wind up being horrible creeps. That's a very important distinction, and shouldn't this be a bipartisan thing anyway? I think we can all agree pedo shit is wrong, and joking about it over and over again publicly on Twitter should be strongly frowned upon. That's not a conservative thing. That's a being a decent human being thing. In the end, people on the sidelines have two interesting and completely opposed sides to choose from here. Do you want to be strongly against gross things like this? Like how the conservatives and the Trump side stands? Or do you want to joke about fucking babies and raping children, while also trying to work with them and cater your jobs to products that they enjoy? Sounds like a messed up, slippery slope to me. The last thing I want to end on is Whoopi Goldberg, who not only went crazy on her talk show this week, The View, screaming at Judge Janine Perino like a crazy person.
You know what's horrible? When the president of the United States whips up people to beat the hell out of people. No. Say goodbye. Let me bye. I'm done.
Well, Whoopi is not only going to be known for that, but she's also going to be remembered for this picture, where Whoopi stands by and supports four of the worst sexual deviants and abusers of all time: rapist and impeached president Bill Clinton, casting couch connoisseur Harvey Weinstein, and fugitive on the run for rape Roman Polanski. Oh, and let's not forget, last but not least, serial date rapist Bill Cosby. We can even see Whoopi's damning quote here, when she defended a pedophile on TV saying it wasn't rape. Absolutely embarrassing, unsettling, offensive, and super messed up. And Whoopi still works for The View, by the way, a show on ABC which, you guessed it, is also owned by Disney, the same company that fired Roseanne and James Gunn. This is the face of the left-wing, liberal, anti-Trumpsters in America, and it's pretty disgusting, and I say they're just plain wrong. What do you guys think? Should James Gunn have been fired? What do you think about these creepy and strange tweets of his? And is there a bigger problem in Hollywood that could use some fixing about now? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time.